will benefit a lot. The other issue which was there is making sure that we stabilize the sector so that there was a lot of issues which were coming, especially for tea, which was not being sold in Mombasa. I had to go there and make sure that we unlock the potential for that, making sure that our agencies are working well. Agriculture has a lot of agencies and they had a lot of issues. So those are the issues which kept me busy for the last 4 months. And I'm very proud that some of them will start bearing fruit very fine. So the qualification I have for Brazil is that, as you, Chair and Melbourne members know, first of all is my background in agriculture. Brazil is a big agriculture country, which has a lot of, as you know, coffee, soya beans, beef, and other products which are coming from Brazil. And I use my extensive background in agriculture and other areas to make sure that our relationship between Brazil, especially on agriculture, and other particular areas which are important to this country, like the green energy, the issues to do with climate change, which Brazil is very much advocating for, the South-South cooperation, which Kenya and Brazil can cooperate. I will give those high priority. And I can say that I'm lucky that when I interacted with the mission in Brasilia, they have already a strategic engagement plan. And if approved by this House, by this committee and the House, I'm sure I will not start from zero. I will start from that with that strategic plan. We will review it. We will see areas where we can cooperate. I know there are memorandums of understanding. There are other areas which are pending, including a memorandum of understanding between us and with the Brazil on agriculture and livestock development, and also on defense. So those are the areas which I will look into. And of course, there is the diaspora, the Latin America. I happily noted that the mission in Brasilia and the mission in Cuba have already started last November to engage the diaspora in that area, and they have formed the Kenya in Latin America Diaspora Organization, CARA. So I'm going to intensify my effort to make sure that CARA works. We get to use the diaspora well in Latin America. I know it's a big area which has not been well covered. So those are the clear priorities which I'll give. Then quickly to Honorable Martha Wangari. My tenure as CS was short, 4 months actually and a few days. And I would say that, as I have said, I was appointed by His Excellency the President. I'm thankful. I don't want to second guess His Excellency the President. He has many considerations why he have to make his cabinet. I know it was not about performance. It is about maybe other considerations. But all said, I would like to say that His Excellency the President, you don't question his appointing authority, and so you agree to what he suggests to you. And I'm very thankful that despite my short tenure, he found it even fit to give me another responsibility as an ambassador, which is still a great honor to represent Kenya, if approved, in Brazil, a great country, a big country, the 5th largest in terms of size and area, and also one of the largest economies in the world. So it's still a great honor. So the short time was not much of performance. It was about issues to do with the considerations of His Excellency the President. If I can go back to the public statements, when you come into office, you first of all deal with what you meet on the table, and you start to learn because you are new. And it's only that in the 3rd month you now start going out and making sure that you make the statements which are supposed to be made. But I believe sometimes you have to work and let the work be seen. So the work which I was given, it had not come at a time when I felt that I needed to come out in the public to make statements. But the work which I have done, and as I was described, was very much will come to be known. The coffee reforms. Yes, the coffee reforms are still not complete. I've tried, when I came in, one of the issues which I met on the table was to make sure that we have a policy in place. And what I did is make sure that that policy, the coffee development policy, makes its way to the cabinet so that they can guide the sector. And I'm happy to note, during my tenure also, the coffee bill 2024 was negotiated by both the chambers of parliament, the Senate and the National Assembly, and it is being awaited, very much eagerly awaited, so that they can help the reform. I was looking forward towards implementing that, but I'm sure the coffee reforms will come into fruition with the new regime, of the new legal framework. The pillars of foreign policy. And I would like to say that, yes, one of the areas which I would like to focus on, as I have said, is on the economic and commercial diplomacy. Because I know Brazil is a big country, has a lot of interest in terms of manufacturing, agriculture, and other areas. And there are a lot of avenues for making sure that our two countries have more economic and commercial diplomacy. When you look at even trade between Kenya and Brazil, it is too much in favor of Brazil, the terms of trade. And I'm sure, for instance, one of the areas which, as I mentioned, where we were looking at when I was a cabinet secretary, is to open up markets for tea. Our tea, we are producing a lot of tea. Tea production has gone up, but our markets they are not very robust. We have relied on a few markets, but when you look at the country like Brazil, it is importing very little from Kenya in terms of tea. So one of the areas we'll be looking into is, can we move a basic commodity like tea to Brazil? Because that is a market which can consume a lot of our tea and other agricultural products. Then the other issue which I would like to give high priority is environmental and climate diplomacy. As I have said, Brazil is a good partner in terms of climate change, in terms of environment. In fact, this year, 2025, Brazil will be hosting the conference of parties, COP, the COP, we know, the COP 30. So that will be a major area where we can cooperate, make sure that Kenya plays a role as a leader. As we all know, Kenya is a leader in climate change in Africa, and we need to make sure that we cooperate with a country like Brazil, which also happen to be a big champion of the environment and climate change. And green energy. Green energy, like we need to invest in green energy. We need to invest in mobility. And I noted one of our companies from Brazil, Marco Polo, is here based in Kenya, doing some of the work in terms of motorbikes and buses, green buses. So those are the areas which we would like to strengthen further. And of course, the diaspora, as I have said. The labor market, yes, this is an opportunity for us. I would go for it, and I would look at all the avenues where we can be able to open up the labor market in Brazil, especially for young people. As you know, Brazil has a big population of African descent, maybe 50%. So it will not be, although the only challenge there is maybe the language, but we will be able to look at avenues where we can be able to open up our labor markets in Southern and Latin America. And I noted that the mission in Brasilia is not only covering Brazil, it's also covering others, 6 countries. Argentina, Peru, and Peru, there is Ecuador, there is Paraguay, Uruguay. So those countries also have opportunities. So I take this as a big mission station which can be able to help us to open up the Latin America. I don't think we are doing enough in terms of cooperating between Kenya, East Africa, and the Latin America. So this is a golden opportunity, Mr. Chairman and members. I will look forward to it. Thank you.
We'll take 3 questions, Honorable Kandie, Honorable Abdikadir, and then Honorable Mamusi. Just for a quick one, let me allow the members who have just come in to introduce themselves.
Thank you, Chair, and Happy New Year. My name is Freddy Kana, Member of Parliament, Shinyalo constituency, and a member of this committee. Thank you.
I'm Moses Krima, a Member of Parliament, Central Meru County. Thank you, Chair.
Good morning. My name is Kwenya Thuku, Member of Parliament for Kinangop.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I want to congratulate the nominee for the nomination he has gotten for Brazil. And Chair, I have maybe 2 questions which I think he has touched on. One is the negative trade balance of Brazil and Kenya of about 150 million. What will he do to change this? If you are given this job, what will you do to change the situation in favor of Kenya? 2, you have also talked of language barrier, which is a big issue in terms of communicating with the people in South America. It is not only Portuguese, but there is also Spanish. And looking at your CV, I have not seen those 2 languages. What will you do in order to make sure that you effectively help us to get what you have said now?
Thank you, Chair. Also, congratulations for the appointment. My question is on what do you think Brazil is so good in, that especially in technology, that you want to maybe transfer the skills to Kenya? You know, Brazil, especially in aviation industry, Brazil is, I think, is a manufacturer of Embraer, and Embraer planes are used almost everywhere. So what do you think you can transfer to Kenya so that you can benefit? Secondly, about immigration, Brazil is usually transit for Kenyans who want to migrate to America, USA illegally, and most of them, they get held up there for some time. So what do you think you can do at least to assist Kenyans who are held up in Brazil and want to migrate to US illegally? Thank you.
And Brigadier, your second question is a bit, are you suggesting that people should be illegally migrating to other countries? I think
what I mean is mostly it's illegal immigration. They don't go through the right channels. Brazil is a transit. You must have heard about the major caravans that moved to America. So some Kenyans are stuck in Brazil up to now. I know.
Honorable Mamusi.
Thank you, Chair, and congratulations, Dr. Andrew, for your nomination. You have talked about the coffee industry, tea, and you've also mentioned something to do with the fertilizer. I want to ask you a question related to the livestock industry in Kenya. That's my area of interest. And first of all, I would like you to tell us, what do you think, in your opinion, is ailing this industry? What do you think we can borrow from Brazil in terms of building resilience for Kenyan pastoralists, in terms of drought? How does Brazil do it? How do we improve our breeds? The outgoing ambassador, Ambassador Kanto, managed to bring embryos from Brazil to Kenya for the first time, and it was a tiresome process. It took too long, and this is because of our stringent policies. And yet the breeds out there are better than what we have. What do you think we can do about such policies that hinder our farmers from improving their breeds or tapping into technology. And also, having brought these embryos into Kenya, we lack the expertise. We have to get Brazilians to come and do the embryo transfer. How do you think we can learn from how they do it in Brazil? What do you think you would do to transfer that knowledge to Kenya? And Ambassador or Dr. Karanja, a lot of nominees have sat on that seat, and they've given us lip service. I hope if you're given this opportunity, you're going to be a man of action. Thank you.
Please respond. Keep it brief if you can.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, honorable members. Thank you, Honorable Kadir, for your question on trade balance. I think that is what I said, that the issue about promoting the economic and commercial diplomacy between Kenya and Brazil will be a high priority. And I thank the mission in Brasilia. When you look at the last few years, they have ratcheted up this issue about engagement on commercial and economic diplomacy. So I'm going to build on that, make sure that the trade balance, as I have said, is a bit more balanced, because it is far much in favor. First of all, is to grow the trade between the two countries, and also to correct the imbalance. And one of the areas I'm seeing is areas where Kenya can have a comparative advantage. And as I have indicated, for instance, areas like tea. We have a lot of tea. We are looking for markets. Why don't we sell to Brazil? We have a lot of some manufactured goods, which Brazil is also looking into. I noted that, for instance, they are very good in terms of if we can promote our cotton here, they are able to absorb a lot of apparels and others. So those are the areas which we will promote and be able to come up with trade missions between inbound and outbound of Brazil to come to Kenya and do the investment and do the improve our trade. Language barrier. The language barrier is there, and it's not going to be wished away. What I can say that, yes, I don't know any Portuguese. That's for sure. But I'm going to make an effort to make sure that at least I learn some survival Portuguese. When I read there, I'm sure I can find a few coaches who can help me to learn a few, to survive, the survival Portuguese, because at this age I don't think I can master the Portuguese. I understand it's a bit difficult language, but at least if I'm approved as an ambassador, I'll try my level best to learn the language, at least to survive. And I'm sure I'm also, where I can't, these days, you can even, I'm sure in the mission, you get an interpreter who can help you. And even, I understand even these days, you can even get a language translation from your phone. You don't have to really struggle too much. So that is a barrier, but it is not an impeding barrier and not a binding barrier. Yes, Honorable, yes, technology transfer. And yes, Brazil has advanced technologies in certain areas. One of the areas which, as it has been pointed out, is the issue about, for instance, our airplanes which we are using, Kenya Airways, the Embraer, is quite a high technology. Even in defense, they are using technologies. They have other technologies like the green energy technologies, which we can use. So the issue about technology transfer is one of the areas which we look into in most of the areas which we will be engaging in terms of, for instance, renewable and clean energy, manufacturing, ICT, and also even in our construction industry. And I even understand some of the technologies being used in affordable housing. There was a team which went to Brazil to look at how they are handling some of these issues. So there are many areas of technology transfer, and we are as if approved by this committee and the House, I can assure you that we open up those technology transfer mechanisms so that Kenya can benefit from the technology in Brazil. And there are companies from Brazil which are already in Kenya doing some of these technology transfers. Illegal migration, this is a difficult area, as the chair has pointed out. It's not an area which, it is an international area, especially knowing what is going on in USA. And what, as a mission, as if approved as an ambassador, what I can do is try to make sure that the Kenyans who are illegally in Brazil are helped to find their way, either back to Kenya or to wherever they are going. But you know, you can't force another country to take somebody in. And especially given what is happening in North America about the illegal and immigration policy. So this is a dicey area which definitely we work as an ambassador and also be helped by our headquarters here in Nairobi. Yes, Honorable Kanchori, the livestock is one of the greatest potential we have in this country. Let's be honest about that, because 2/3 of our country is arid or semi-arid, and this is mainly where the livestock is based, and we have a lot of potential. And also in high potential areas, we have the dairy, which is also high potential, has a lot of potential. And I am aware that there is a team of Kenyans scientists who have recently been to Brazil to learn about embryo transfer. And the mission in Brasilia, our mission in Brasilia has also been facilitating the transfer of breeds in livestock, including embryos transfer, and making sure that Kenyans are able to do that. And our agencies like the Kenya Genetic Resource Organization, KNEC, and Kenya Agricultural Development Corporation, ADC, has been involved in this transfer of technology, especially for livestock. Brazil happens to be the largest beef exporter in the world, so there are a lot of technologies which they can be able to share with Kenya. And one of the key areas which is hampering our livestock sector is especially on the feeding programs. How do we latch up our feeding program? Because both in livestock, both in pastoral livestock and also in dairy and other livestock, the major component which is causing a lot of problems, apart from genetics, is also feeding. We spend a lot of money, a lot of resources in terms of feeding. For instance, in dairy, we are spending around almost 60%. Animals, in pigs and chicken, we are spending around 60% of the cost in terms of feeding. So we will look at what is Brazil doing in terms of feeding. Apart from genetics, what are their systems of applying the feeds? I know they are good in terms of soybeans, which they can import as a raw material for our animal feeds. I know they are good in also in other cereals, which they are doing for for the animals. And now that there is an opportunity, if allowed by the agencies in Kenya, of having to import some of these GMOs, then that is a possibility which can happen, because Brazil also happens to be a good producer of some of the cereals like soybeans. So we will be able to explore all that and make sure that it benefits our livestock sector. Thank you very much.
Do we have any more questions? Honorable Kwenya, and then Honorable Ikana, and then Honorable Krima. Let's keep them short.
Yeah, Chair, thank you for the opportunity, and sorry for stepping in a bit late. Now, I want in a very special way, first of all, to compliment the candidate for his vast knowledge in the field of agriculture, and happy to note that Brazil is an agricultural country, majorly an agricultural country. Chairman, I have noted with a lot of concern, and the former CS did quite some work in the Ministry of Agriculture, but that was never known because of failure to effectively communicate the same. And Chair, if you allow me, I'll read a scripture that is in the book of, because he's a Christian, he's a professed Catholic. That is in the book of Gospel according to St. Luke, chapter 8 and verse 16. It says that no one lights up a lamp and hides it in a clay jar or puts it under the bed. Instead, they put it on a stand so that those whom come in can see the light. Today, some of the challenges that we're facing as a government, Chairman, if you allow me to say, is failure to communicate government policy effectively and in time. And specifically, Chair, I want to speak on the issue of livestock vaccines that squarely lie under that is an agricultural ministry issue. This issue has not been communicated, yet we know some of the problems that we're having in the Ministry of Agriculture in terms of livestock is because our beef does not meet the standards of the world, the world standards that are prescribed because of lack of vaccinations in time. And therefore, I would urge the candidate, because you have all this knowledge, we have no doubt in your capacity, but when it comes to communication, can we ambassador in Brazil time? What needs to be known, let it just be known in time, so that then we don't get ourselves into the quagmire like the one that we are in at the moment. Chair, I do not have any question for the candidate. I think he fits the bill. All he needs to do is to up his game in terms of communication.
I will ignore that last bit. It's unfortunate that as a vetting member of parliament, you've decided to endorse a candidate before the other members even communicate their suitability. But your mind can be spoken without necessarily having to address it here at another venue. But I get your point also, and I think Dr. Kwenya raises a very profound, Honorable Kwenya raises a very profound point, that the failure to communicate on government position, particularly on vaccine, might have costed you your job. And this is a very serious position, and Honorable Yusuf will tell you that a diplomatic posting is a very sensitive, because now you are dealing with even more countries and dealing with more governments. It is important that we are able to understand what might really have happened, so that again you don't have a short stint as a diplomat if this committee approves you. What will have been the challenge? Why did the president, of course you might not know, but in less than 4 months, in my view, might have been a challenge in terms of your performance, and not as your performance as a cabinet secretary of agriculture, because you're extremely competent in matter agriculture, but might be the failure to communicate and vocalize the government agenda. That might have costed you, and that is what Honorable Kwenya, in my view, is trying to address, and probably even to communicate to this committee how you will now do it differently if this committee approves you, and how you intend to build from the weaknesses that probably you've realized when you've reflected in the last few days after you were removed as a cabinet secretary. You may now proceed to respond to those few questions.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Honorable Konya, for your... I agree 100%. The issue about communication in government is a challenge which not only affects one state department or the other, and it is a challenge which we are alive to, because when we, for instance, when we got into the appointed as cabinet secretaries, one of the challenges definitely we got from His Excellency the President is that we need to up our game on communication. But as members, honorable members, realize that communication is, yes, it is important and very critical, but it is also a challenging area, in that sometimes you communicate in one way, but given the many channels of communication these days which we have, the message might be distorted in one way or the other, or it might come from the other come out differently. For instance, the issue about the vaccination, despite the good intentions which the government has on vaccination, and there are good reasons, and which I try as a cabinet secretary and my team tried to make sure that we communicate with the members of the public, and even briefed His Excellency the President, who also helped us to communicate the same. We were very surprised to hear that other things were being said about vaccination, which got out of hand through the other social media and other areas. And it is not about vaccination alone. There are other areas which were coming through, sometimes misinformation. So I agree 100%, Mr. Chair, that and members that in my new position, I'm more wiser in terms of making sure that I become very careful in terms of communication, making sure that I not only communicate, use all the means possible, but also communicate on time and clearly, and where there are distortions coming through, they are countered on time, because that, I think, is one of the weaknesses, that you let something go and then it gets its own life, and before you know, something has really been distorted. Because, like, you can use the example of vaccination, claiming that the government was vaccinating animals so that because somebody else has told us. I've never met that person who was being claimed as a cabinet secretary. I have never met him. I have never met that organization. I don't know whether there is any vaccination where you can change the genetic makeup of an animal by vaccination. So those are the things which we try to, but I'm not trying to defend vaccination here, but I'm saying those are the things which, when you ignore them, they get a life on their own. So communication is something which is a challenge, and I take the challenge going forward, and I will try, and I promise this committee that I do my best in terms of ensuring there is better communication from the mission. If I'm approved, if there is better communication from the mission in Brasilia. Thank you.
Honorable Ikana.
Chairman, if you allow, mine is also a very brief comment.
Okay, so then Dr. will take both of them, Honorable Ikana's and Honorable Krima.
Okay, thank you. Chairman, my comment is just to really commend the nominee before us for positively affirming that he has always been willing and ready to serve the country in whatever position that His Excellency the President deems fit for him. That's a very positive attitude, and I think it should be commended. But also I want to emphasize on the need of attempting to learn as much as possible, at least conversational Portuguese when you go to Brazil. And I'll give you a head start. If you are approved by Parliament and this committee, that you at least need to know how to say, how are you? You just say, como vai? It's just like Kimeru. Thank you.
That is a comment, and on the point of accepting to serve in any capacity, even me as a person, I would like to applaud you. Shortly after you finish, I'll be reading one of your colleagues who's declined a posting. So, I mean, if you are ready to take any office that was available, and I think that is quite respectful. Honorable Krima.
Thank you, Chairman. Congratulations to the ambassador for his appointment. But, Chairman, having taken the cue from you, where one has, Chairman? Nomination. Thank you, Chair, for that correction. But having taken a cue from you where one refused the appointment, my good question to the ambassador appointee is this, nominee is this, Dr. Karanja, I'm happy and may say I'm happy to hear from you when you talk about the vaccination of our animals, because when you are there, you are addressing the whole nation, because whatever you are doing there, I believe is being broadcasted to the whole country. Is this vaccination have anything to do with the Bill Gates mood of reducing the population in Africa? Because that's the notion which is going out to the common man, and it's the high time that at least you can explain to the livestock farmers, me included, because that's what has been being there, and that's why you see people are resistance to the same. When we talk of failing to articulate government policies and issues, it's fact, it's true that it's not coming out what the government is doing, in despite of the good will of the government and the efforts which the executive and even the members of the legislature are putting. The internal people in the government are not giving out proper information, and that's one of the handles we have in vaccination. Now, since you are there and you have been the Minister for Agriculture, come out clear. Tell us if it has anything to do with the reduction of population. That's one. Then that one is, by the way, because I've taken it from the chairman. Now, mine is this. I've seen that you have been to various universities and you have studied specifically in the field of agriculture, Dr. But I've not seen anything to do with diplomacy or administration, public administration.
He's responded to that. He has already responded.
I'm sorry, Chairman. I mean, but as you have corrected me, if it has been done, well and good. May I go to the second one? I've also seen the thesis you have written about small-scale farmers, which you have talked about agriculture and livestock. In this thesis, they look so good, the way I've seen it, because even I've studied some of them. And, you know, we have those people who are so good when it comes to bond room, writing and articulating issues, but when it comes to the field, they are just lame duck. What have you done, or where your thesis have been put into practice, especially like these few months when you have been the Minister for Agriculture, so that at least they could have assisted the common man in this country? For you know, we entirely depend on agriculture in our livelihood. That's one of the questions. The second one. You've been the Minister for Agriculture just for 4 months. And to me, having been appointed just for 4 months, and now you are taking the second appointment, and the one which you are taking now is the ambassador. Don't you think it connotes incompetency for you to have been appointed for a very short stint, the Minister of Agriculture, and you have been dropped? And if that's how it is being thought of, why didn't you also decline? For you have been declined by the appointing authority not to be competent in the Minister of Agriculture. Thank you, Chairman.
Respond, Dr.
Well, sit and we have come with you.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair and honorable members. I would like to handle the issue about, I think the issue about language was already discussed, and I have said I've committed to making sure that I agree. You can't survive in Brazil without Portuguese, so I will take time to learn the language, basic language, then the rest. The issue about, from the honorable member, about livestock and vaccination, that is what I was talking about. I didn't want to mention the names of Bill Gates and the rest, because I think, as I have said, I've never met Bill Gates, I've never met the Gates Foundation. And the vaccination campaign which the government is engaged in is for the mere fact that, first of all, vaccination always goes on, is still going on even as we speak today in the pastoral communities and elsewhere, because foot and mouth and other diseases are ongoing. What is happening is that what this program is doing is, first of all, to coordinate that vaccination. Because if you vaccinate in one county, let's say Kajiado, and Narok doesn't vaccinate, then there is movement of livestock, then that becomes a zero-sum game, because that doesn't add up. So the issue was about coordination, so that we do it as a campaign, and we eradicate foot and mouth and other diseases for sheep and goats, so that we are able to access better markets for livestock. So it was about coordination. It was about making sure we have also eradicated some of these tradable diseases like foot and mouth, so that we can be able to access our better markets. Currently, we are limited in some of the markets because of, we are said, we are disease. Secondly and thirdly is about food safety. Consuming meat from and other products, animal products from diseased animals, is usually a danger to human beings. So when you have a sick animal, foot and mouth, the goats and skin, which most people don't even inspect, So if we eradicate those diseases, we are also improving the human in food safety, the products from animal livestock. So those are the major motivations for doing the vaccination, and still is. And what I would also say that the vaccines which are being used for this vaccination are being produced here in Embakasi by the Kenya Vaccine Production Institute, KVAVAPI. It is a Kenyan parastatal. It has been producing these vaccines for the last 16 years. We have been even exporting, as we are speaking, to Uganda and other countries in the region. So it has got nothing to do with external influence. So that message and that information should have gone out to the farmers, so that they are safe, the vaccine is safe, it is Kenyan produced, it has nothing to do with what is alleged that animals are being targeted for. And it will even be foolhardy, because if there are any alterations to be done on genetics of animals, where to start is some of the countries which have big herds like Brazil, which have big herds. USA, some countries in Europe has big herds. It's not Kenya actually which has big herds. So there is nothing sinister about the vaccination. So I would like to, as a former Minister for Agriculture, I would like to assure the Kenyans that this committee and Parliament that there was nothing sinister about it. The issue about practical applications, yes, I have had several practical applications, especially from my work, as it was I have indicated in terms of the coffee reforms where I worked before. The fertilizer subsidy program, I have worked with that before. And even when I was in the World Bank, we worked on issues to do with reform in the institution. So all those are practical works which are there. And it is true that the 4 months which I was a cabinet secretary for agriculture is not enough for once to really point out, as I have said in the beginning, major steps which you have taken. But the task which I was given, and I would like to repeat maybe for the honorable member, one of the tasks which I was given when I came in was to stabilize and to make sure I streamline the subsidy program, the fertilizer subsidy program, which I have very proudly to say here, I have done. Today, fertilizer is waiting for farmers. It is quality fertilizer. It is not the other way around when we had issues which made even my predecessor to be impeached. So I think that is a very big positive move. And I am proud of that I stabilized that. The appointment, as I have said, and Chairman and honorable members, I would like to state here that I'm a Kenyan citizen and a law-abiding citizen, and I respect authority. And when His Excellency the President assigns me to an assignment, I always do. I agree 100% that obedience is very important. You can say whatever you want to say, but obedience is very important. I would not like to second guess His Excellency the President. Why he appointed me? I was not a politician. He appointed me. He gave me an opportunity, a golden opportunity for 4 months. And then he found it important and very critical that he gives me another assignment in Brazil. So to me, I would not like to second guess His Excellency the President. It was not about performance. It was about other considerations. And I would like to free him from any notions that I did not perform. And I am going to assure this committee and the House that the new assignment is also important. When you serve as a representative of the President of the Republic of Kenya, when you serve as the representative of the Republic of Kenya, when you serve on behalf of the people of Kenya in Brasilia, to represent in seven countries, it is a big honor to me. And I appreciate it very much. And I would like to thank the President once again for giving me that opportunity.
I think I bring it up to the Vice Chair now.
Thank you, Chairman. Congratulations, Dr. Karanja, for your nomination. You have answered most of the things that members have asked. But there's something you mentioned yourself. I have two questions. The first one is, you said you were discharged from the office as Cabinet Secretary was not based on performance, but other considerations. Can you enlighten the committee what are these other considerations? Because you mentioned yourself, it came from you. Probably you might tell us what are these other considerations that you think might have happened. That's one. And the other question is about Brazil. You know, Brazil is a founder of BRICS. And BRICS is about 45% of the world's population. And more countries are joining, including our neighbor Uganda. Will you recommend, if approved by this House, for Kenya to join BRICS, considering that we have some of our other traditional allies like US, and remember we are also a NATO member. So will you recommend us, Kenya, to join BRICS, considering that the benefits that will accrue from being a member of BRICS? You talked about also the issue of defense cooperation agreement. Tell us what areas do you think Kenya can focus in terms of defense cooperations with Brazil? Thank you.
You may use that now and use your final 2-3 minutes to make a final plea to this committee for your consideration.
Okay, thank you, Chair, and thank you, the Vice Chair, for your question. I think the other consideration issue, let's put it in one word: politics. and I leave it at that. Yeah, so that I don't second guess His Excellency the President, and that's it. In terms of BRICS and Kenya, yes, Brazil is a champion in BRICS and also the G20. And actually, the 2024, it had the chair of the G20. And the BRICS is one of the areas, one of the organizations, multilateral organization where Brazil is championing. And this is a big organization with some of the biggest countries like China, Russia, and all the rest, which happens to be the countries which are not in the mainstream bilaterals. When you talk about World Bank and the rest, they don't have too much power. And our neighbors, Uganda is bridging to have a member. South Africa is a member. Even Ethiopia, our neighbor, is a member of the BRICS. And I would say Kenya fits the bill here in the BRICS, because these are countries which are similar to Kenya. They are compatriots in terms of developing countries. They have similar conditions, similar environment. So, as if I've approved as this committee and the National Assembly, I would promote the idea that Kenya joins the BRICS, because as a regional leader in this area, it will benefit a lot for Kenya to be in the BRICS. It is mature to have in the BRICS. There are benefits which you look into. We will look at the protocols and procedures for that to happen. And I'm sure if invited and I'm appointed as the ambassador, then I'll help Kenya to do that. On defense, I'm sure this committee, being one which is responsible for also defense matters, is quite aware of what defense issues are there. But what I was talking about is a memorandum of understanding between Kenya and Brazil in terms of defense matters, which might contain other issues which are maybe not for public consumption. But definitely, you know, Brazil has technologies in terms of even air defense forces and all that, which can help Kenya. So those are issues which I'm sure when the memorandum of understanding is done, will be discussed by bilaterally and agreed upon. So I don't want to go into the details at this stage. So, as I requested by the chair, I would like at this juncture to, first of all, chair and honorable members, to thank you most sincerely for giving me this opportunity to appear before you. I don't take this for granted that you have given me your good time to be able to go through this vetting and also verification of my suitability for the position which I'm nominated for. And I would like to request you most kindly, sincerely, to consider me for the position which His Excellency the President has considered me and nominated me for. And to assure you that I'm not going to go there and say that because I have been a cabinet secretary, I will not do this job. I will do this job to my best of my ability. I will use my ability in terms of my knowledge, my exposure in terms of what I know in diplomacy, run from whatever else is there in diplomacy, whatever shortcomings I have in terms of diplomacy, I will improve on them. In terms of language, I improve on them. And in terms of communication, I also improve. I've learned a lot. And what I can assure this committee is that if you approve me and recommend me for the National Assembly for approval, I will not let you down. I will also promote parliamentary the diplomacy, making sure that this parliament, the Kenyan parliament, and what we have, the Congress in Brazil, has an interaction, making sure that because there is a lot to share among the two countries. So with that, Mr. Chairman and honorable members, thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. If this committee approves you, be the ears and the eyes of the President in Brasilia, Brazil. We wish you all the best. We will wait to hear from the collective wisdom of this committee on whether they will approve your nomination or reject your nomination. All the best. You may now leave.